Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us in a short 3 or 4 sentence who Mallence Bart-Williams is?
Mallence is Mallence. It's difficult to put me in a box, I would say. I'm an extremely versatile person. Already my heritage is so vast. It's European, it's African, it's a little bit of Asian. I've lived around the globe, studied around the globe, I've worked around the globe, and a global villager is probably what applies best to me.
A globetrotter, as they say on the net. Because you've been to Singapore, Asia, everywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ask where have you not been?
The world is vast. So many places I have not visited. Yeah.
Okay, and you are here now in Namibia. What brings you here?
It's a conference that the University of Namibia is hosting, and we are intending to create a dialogue about a lot of issues that concern Namibia in this day and age.
And what are those issues in your view?
They might differ on the perspective of the individual people that partake at the university. Their take is from poverty to prosperity. However, my individual perspective is poverty is not present. Namibia is not a poor country. So I would say, how do we redefine prosperity? Me personally, I ignore the poverty aspect.
Why?
Why? Because it's not true. Namibia is not poor. Namibia has been looted. Namibia has been robbed. Namibia has been colonized. Namibia has lived under apartheid.
But we have extreme levels of poverty.
Yes, as a result of this. If I come to your house and I rob you, it will be empty. Does that make you a poor person? No.
You mentioned colonialism, apartheid. You are from, as you said earlier, German origin.
Yes.
You come directly from that descent, and we have a situation where we talk about reparations.
Yes.
Between Namibia and Germany. There's an apology forthcoming from the German government now, 26 years after independence.
Is it coming?
Yeah, well, that is what we learn from what we read.
Exactly so.
Coming from Germany yourself, what are your views on this?
My views are I'm utterly ashamed that my ancestors committed such atrocities, unthinkable atrocities, crimes against humanity, to wipe out an entire people, the Herero, almost completely. I feel even more ashamed that with a great chancellor like Mrs. Merkel, we as Germans are not in the position to take a stand as we've done with dealing with the Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust. And that is what puzzles me more, because what happened is one thing, but what we make of our history, that is what really defines us, and presently, the ignorance and the passiveness of Germany, it's not a good look. It's not a good look.
But Namibia and Germany enjoys a special relationship from independence. Immediately after independence, or even before independence, the Bundestag adopted a resolution saying that Namibia is a special place in German relations because of the history. What do you make of that?
I would like to ask you, what do you make of that? If your special friend, because you like to perceive the Germans as friendly and we have this special relationship, we're friends, your special friend is not in the position to apologize, recognize, take responsibility for their mistakes. Do you really consider that a friendship?
Well,
is that rooted in respect and honor?
Well, respect and friendship are not only based on
based on respect, and that is utterly disrespectful.
It's fundamental according to you.
Yes.
But we also are the biggest development cooperation recipient from Germany in Africa.
Isn't that the least somebody that can do that looted you and murdered you? Isn't that the very least? Is that something to clap and applaud for?
Well, it's just a reality.
If I come and loot and kill your family, and then afterwards I bring you a few shirts, are you going to clap for me, really?
That's what's happening.
Yeah, but then you also need to ask yourself, where did you define your value? Can you really repay murder? Can you really repay genocide with a few little cheap donations? How do you define your value as a people? And that's where I feel something has to happen in the mindsets of people here, because I come across this quite a lot, and that's what's saddening me, where I see the mental brainwashing has taken its toll on people, that they came to believe that this is all they deserve, you know, after what has happened. You have to understand that so-called developed countries would not be where they were if it wasn't for free labor, free resources, and so on, so on, so on, that they took from countries like Namibia, you know, and many others across the world. So we can't just refer to a first world and a third world. We can't refer to a world or countries that have previously been colonized, and we can refer to countries that have colonized and made use of free resources and free labor, and that's why they're ahead of others. And that's the very least they can do, is give a little. But I feel that's not enough.
What do you say should be done?
What should be done?
How should Germany make up for this?
Germany should deal according to their own laws. And according to their own laws, they define people that commit such atrocities as terrorists. In Germany, we prosecute them. If you come to Germany and you come by means of force and violence and murder, you're immediately prosecuted. If you come to Germany as a refugee, as an immigrant, without a visa, you're illegal. Your status is illegal. You cannot just run into the government, kill our president, take over, impose your laws, and issue yourself own passports and become a citizen. That just doesn't work anywhere in the world. And what I find puzzling is that the West takes a moral high ground. They impose laws that everybody has to abide by. However, they fail to abide by their own laws when it comes to territories outside of their own borders, you know, and this is actually not very logical.
But the developed world has always made the rules.
That's fine, let them make the rules, but then let's all abide by these rules. A terrorist is a terrorist by definition. An illegal immigrant is an illegal immigrant by definition, not by color or religion. You know, not because you come from Syria makes you an illegal immigrant. Then if we just can come to places and assume citizenship, then fine, you know. If I can go to China at gunpoint, get my passport, if it works like that, then let's establish those laws and live by them. You know, but if that is considered illegal by the laws that we all came to live by, because these laws were created in Europe, America based their jurisdictory system on European law. You know, part of the laws that you have here are based on these laws, but the people that have formed these laws, they should also live by these laws. You know, otherwise it's not the rest of the world that looks stupid, it's them that look stupid.
Just coming back to Namibia, you have been here for, I think, 1 and a half days.
Mm-hmm.
What is your impression of the country?
I cannot speak about the country. I've only been to the capital, and looks like a German suburb, like a town, small town like Dortmund or wherever, you know.
But
like
what about the infrastructure? What about
the buildings? I mean, Germans, let's say Bauhaus is one of our great exports when it comes to architecture, and then of course many centuries ago there was beautiful architecture, but everything that, let's say, since the early, since about a century ago, the German has nothing to show for in terms of architecture. It's not our greatest export, and so it's saddening to see that this is something they imposed on this place as well, you know.
But I think you need to give us more credit. 26 years after independence, we're the fourth most competitive country in the region. I think we ranked in the 50s. We are the most, I mean, in Africa, the freest press. We have those. I think you need to give us a little bit
No,
more
I'm not trying to discredit you. Please don't misunderstand me.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that Namibians developed. It's not what was put here by the colonializer,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So that is what you should take credit for, and I'm happy to discover that. But you asked me what my first impression was, and my first impression in terms of infrastructure, landing here, it looks like I landed in Dortmund.
What would you have expected if you have not seen pictures of Namibia before?
I've not really seen pictures. Of course, I've seen beautiful pictures of tribes and landscapes and so on. You know, that is what interests me personally. You know, this is like, okay, I can go to Dortmund and I wouldn't go there, you know, not even for free. And so I've been to South Africa, so I already knew that I would be expecting something similar. So the culture shock was not like tremendous for me. But of course, if I have more time, I'd love to discover the real Namibia, the African Namibia, the authentic Namibia,
I'm sure you will have time.
the culture of the people, not what somebody said, hey, take this suits you, you know?
I'm sure you will have time. I think UNAM is a good host. Always.
Yeah, they are excellent hosts.
Yes. Now, we talked about poverty, from poverty to prosperity. You said your definition of prosperity is something else. Could you elaborate? on
Yes,
what?
because from poverty to prosperity, that already implies that Namibia is a poor country, which it isn't. As I said, it has been colonized, it has been looted, it has suffered from apartheid. Apartheid is one of the worst crimes against humanity, okay? So that is almost like saying after Reichskristallnacht, the Jews were poor. It's just like, no, something happened here. You know, it's like talking to a doctor that will just analyze the symptoms. That is not healing, you know, and that will never really tackle the root and will not solve the problem. Namibia is not poor. The question should be, how can we redefine prosperity? How can we improve prosperity? How can we readdress our resources? You know, that should be the question. But poverty is a consequence of what has happened here. You know, these are symptoms. Namibia is not poor. The average American is poorer than the average Namibian. So let's put it that way. And these are numbers. That is something you can quantify.
So realignment of resources and perhaps reprioritizing, adding value to our minerals and our products that we take out. Would you say that would help in terms of creating prosperity for Namibians?
I believe so, because at this point in the 21st century, Namibia competes on a global market, you know, because of what has happened. But let's be very honest, Namibia has not been poor before being invaded by terrorism, apartheid, colonialism, and whatever you want to call it. You know, in the modern terms, we would define it as terrorism. Back then, it was called colonialism, conquest, apartheid. Namibia was not poor before then, you know. So basically, Namibia is ridding themselves of the aftermath of a disease, you know. Namibia had a cancer, so to speak, you know, and it still doesn't have regrown its hair, you know. It's still suffering from that chemotherapy. Namibia is bold at the moment, but Namibia is not poor. It's one of the richest countries in the world.
Now, the new administration of President Geingob has developed what it calls the Harambe Prosperity Plan, taking from the Swahili word of let's pull together.
I love that.
Have you had any insight on the plan and what are
Not
your
at all.
impressions? But from this, I mean, it works on like 5 pillars to help accelerate prosperity, reducing poverty, increasing economic growth and so on. What would you, because it's like
What are the 5
coordinated plan.
pillars?
Infrastructure development, poverty reduction is a major one.
Education.
Yeah, education definitely. I mean, at this
Health.
time, and something from Germany is, again, vocational education training. It's a major aspect of the plan as well, because nowadays we look at getting offers jobs, we're looking at going for a degree. We don't really value artisans a lot. So the plan, in a broad sense, are focusing on those issues. But from the little I gave to you, what are your views on such a plan? Because it coordinates all efforts. It cuts wastage where it's not required and so on.
A plan is a plan, you know. A plan is always only as great as the people that execute it and the manner in which it is executed. So I personally cannot really comment on the plan. We would have to wait and see down the line what happens. You know, you would be in a better position to assess your people, to see how willing and able they are to push forward. I mean, look at a nation like Singapore, what they have pulled on it off in 60 years, but that is a very unique kind of mentality, it's a unique nation, you know. So a plan and a similar. I'm giving this example because then Lee Kuan Yew had a similar plan, you know, and he pulled it off very successfully, though. And so I don't know. The plan sounds good, you know.
Yeah.
The plan sounds good. Let's
And,
put it that way.
And let's pull in one direction. Arambe, Swahili.
I like that.
Pulling together everybody.
Yes, I like that.
Now, just I wanted to make reference to the TED talk that you had in 2015, where you spoke about aid.
Yeah.
And what Africa's role is in terms of giving also to the Western world, the developed world, and how we should redefine that relationship.
Yeah, number one, we all must be very careful in our terminology. I feel every day we feed into the lie. You know, we all have played this tell-a-tale game since the beginning of time. By the way, we've been brainwashed through history, misconstrued history in schools and so on, you know, where we've been taught one perspective, the perspective of the colonizer around the world. And so we need to all acknowledge that aid is not coming from the Western world to Africa. It never has, never. Aid is coming from Africa to the Western world. The Western world would not be able to survive, not even a year, without Africa, you know. And so, me, Mallence, I think what is a characteristic that defines me, I'm very particular and try to be immaculate with my word and with my language and define my own truth that I consider an absolute truth, not because the media has instilled it in me or books have instilled it in me. The truth is that a lot of things are not the way they are being portrayed, you know, and yeah. Africa is rich. Africa doesn't need nobody. You know, Africa, I feel, is suffering also from a cancer, you know, and the cancer has been European invasion and these cancerous cells that are still like myomes all over the continent. Africa is gradually ridding themselves of that cancer, you know, so...
It's a cancer of mental slavery.
These are, I would say, symptoms of the cancer, you know, because if you suffer from cancer, it will have a psychological effect on you. But Africa is not poor, never has been, you know, it's been portrayed, it has been looted, and it's being looted as we speak. So it's a constant battle.
Yes, so as a filmmaker also, you didn't speak about that, but would you say then Africa should tell its own story?
Yeah, indeed, because there is a beautiful African proverb: until the lion tells its own story, the hunter will always be glorified. And that is exactly what's the case in regards to Africa. Africa needs to tell its own story, not just through the medium of film, but in schools. You know, where do we get our books from? How dare we assume? How dare we assume? Yeah, I love it. It's nature. How dare we assume to speak a language of somebody that brought nothing but pain? You know, when I go to South Africa and I hear people speak Afrikaans, it stirs a feeling of nausea, because for me it's something to listen to that. It's so repulsive. Number one, because it's it defines a very low social status, not exactly a very intellectual language. And I love language. I love the beauty of language, and it's a very primitive dialect. Let's say that it's not a language, but that people that have been victim of such a system assume that, you know, by which this system has been introduced. I find this is sad to see. You know, we need to write our own our own history. We need to teach our own history in schools according to what we believe and according to what is rooted in our own tradition, our own ancestry. You know, and I feel when you look at a tree, no tree can really grow. And this storm is a perfect example. When you look at the wind, a wind will immediately unroot a tree that is not deeply rooted, you know? So every crown is only as big as its roots. And that is what needs to happen in Africa. Poverty this, plan that. Unless we're really rooted into our own, what belongs to us, 100% tradition, we cannot grow grand and large as we would like. Best example, Nigeria. There's no question about Nigerian culture when you go to Nigeria. Not for 1 second will you question their identity. Look how they have excelled, you know? And my perception of the infrastructure, fair enough, you know, it's okay if foreign architecture firms come and build things. That happens everywhere around the world. But when you go to the Middle East, when you go to the Emirates, yes, all these buildings were not built by necessarily by Middle Eastern companies, but not for a second do you question their identity, you know? And I feel this is where we need to start, with our identity. Then the rest is a byproduct. Growth is a byproduct. Once youth and young people know their identity, they'll be so strong, they're unstoppable. You know, it will be that solid tree that will withstand every storm and grow just naturally. And that is what I want to see in Africa.
And you are doing this with your project in Sierra Leone with the lion-based guys. Talk to us about that. I mean, you took 21 kids from the street, I mean, gangsters and people who don't really... You were in fact warned about not going to the bridge where they live. You went in there and they accepted you.
Yeah.
But not a Sierra Leonean yourself, I mean, in the true sense of, given your background. How did you manage that, and why did you feel like that it's something that you need to do?
I was always compelled to do something for my country. And as I say, my country, Sierra Leone, is as much my home as Germany is. My mother is German, my father is Sierra Leonean, and then I have some Asian roots also. Since the war had ended, and initially I was thinking along the conventional lines of raising funds or probably even associating with an organization and so on, and then I realized, okay, these are all no options, and I was confronted with harsh realities when coming to that area. You know, I was coming to that area because I also worked as a stylist and creative director for music videos and so on in Germany. I was making an outfit for my brother who's a musician, and I saw them from a bird's eye perspective under this bridge, and I always wondered what must have happened for you to have ended up here. And that was a question nobody could answer. All people did was warn me, and I saw them. This so-called gang leader was sometimes on above, you know, on top of this bridge, and I would say hi. I wouldn't even know that he was from down there. And then I asked him at one point, you know, and we went to the beach, and they told me their stories, and then they took me down there, and I saw, and I realized I don't have time to raise money, build a school, this or that. These guys do not know what to eat today, you know? And then it gradually evolved, and I realized, okay, what can I do? Or I thought, what can I do with what I have? Let's not focus on what I don't have. I don't have these millions or whatever that I thought I needed to realize what I was envisioning. And then because of the initiatives I took, I also caused problems for them. So I had to take responsibility because they were regularly being attacked by police in violent manner because through the initiatives and the fashion, the sneakers, whatever we created, I urged them to, everybody had to open their bank accounts. They received a monthly allowance, you know, so they were able to feed themselves, stay away from crime basically, and pay for a teacher, you know, to just learn the basics of reading and writing. They were still living in the streets at the time. And because the police kept harassing them at the first of every month because they knew they would receive their money and beat them up and so on. So I knew they would never get an apartment in Sierra Leone. I had to take them into my house. And that was another journey that began, and it's a beautiful exchange, full of challenges, of course. Eventually I was kicked out of my apartment, but it was worth it, you know?
It was worth it if you look at what they have achieved. Some of them, I mean, all of them, I think, have never had school.
Not before, yeah.
Yeah, and they are now, some of them have graduated.
Yes.
As you were saying in your talk, that the stuff they are doing, the sneakers they are producing, the designs they are doing, are being worn by icons, fashion icons around the world.
Yeah.
So what you have achieved is quite remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think if you have vision, if you believe, and you don't listen to naysayers, then yeah, you'll accomplish what you want.
I think you are being too modest about that, Mallence.
In my case, it works like that, yeah.
But also,
But I'm not saying that it was just 100% success stories. Some of them, I mean, you always want the very best for all of your, okay, children is not the right term because we were like, no, they were much younger than me, yeah, but I would more say like brothers, you know, but I had a little bit of a motherly role there. And some will go the extra mile and some just won't, you know, they just won't have the discipline. But this project was never intended to last forever. It was intended to get them out of this miserable situation of having to steal, having to kill a cat or a rat just to have your next meal, you know, or to beg or whatever. And in that sense, it's been 100% success, you know, because they've all come out of this gutter. And some, yeah, they're in great jobs, you know, filmmakers and international firms and this and that, but some have not accomplished as much as they could have, you know, and but they're all on their own now, and so my focus is now on very young children.
Yeah. And that is where the issue of not charity but charity comes from. Could you explain that?
Yeah, charity for me, I feel charity, CH, in the classical sense is very condescending, you know. And considering that I'm coming to Africa, how dare I? It's almost going to, I don't know, Queen Victoria and saying, hey, here's a loaf of bread. Have you eaten today? You know, I feel it's very insulting to come and bring charity here. And generally, which benefit does it have? I'm not the kind of, I don't believe in parenthood that just gives and gives and gives and gives to their children. I feel everything needs to be accomplished. That is what you truly own, you know. So I always believe in an exchange. I believe in these guys. They own this experience that we had together for this 4 years. Nobody will ever be able to take that from them. What they make out of that, that's up to each individual, you know. But if I now would have given them this, given them that, given them this, given them that, as it comes, this is the way things go away again, you know. So I wasn't raised like that, you know. I had to work for everything, kind of, you know. I mean, my parents, they gave me everything I needed, but I started to earn money from a very early age, 8 or 9 years, as a matter of fact. And my father always promoted I had to excel in school, be the best of my class or whatever, in order to be awarded with whatever I wanted, you know. And I believe in that. It has worked for me. It has helped me to excel in life, and I would like to pass that on. And the concept of charity, in terms of sharing is based on the proposition that we meet on eye level with mutual respect, and I receive from you whilst I give to you, and you receive from me whilst you give to me, and they have like given me also so much, like living together, the experiences, also having a glimpse into another person's life, you know. I feel only when you give, you understand how rich you are, and the wealth that gives to you is immeasurable. So what this has given to me is immeasurable.
No, it's really fascinating, and I mean, we could talk about this for a long time. But I see you also went for a hairstylist. Are you assimilating?
Yeah.
Is that to be a bit more comfortable with blending in?
No, you didn't see my hairstyle before I had braids. Growing up in Germany, these things like relaxers and all that was never available. And it wasn't something that was promoted. Maybe it was, but my father, my mom, they never promoted that. So I've had a weave twice in my life. Once it lasted for maybe an hour till my mom saw me, took a big pair of scissors and cut it off. And the other day I had one for like 2 weeks. When I visited my mom, she did the same thing. And usually I always, you know, then because I fell very sick and what happened to my hair, I had to shave part off and cut it short. But since then I have been regrowing it, and I always do braids or leave it natural. I mean, I have had like a lot of Afro hair for most of my life, so this is very practical, you know. I get up in the morning, it's like that, and they didn't have time to do the long braids now because I had to meet you.
Well, thank you. It's been really a real pleasure to be in your company.
Likewise.
Yes, but to wrap it all up, any last words from your side?
Last words is be proud of yourself. Truly proud of your heritage, you know, be proud of who you are, like the blood that runs in your veins. It came from very, very far. Be proud of that, you know, and don't belittle yourself, because what you mentioned before, it's time to move away from a cultural village. Something intrigued me about the way you said it, you know. I don't know if it's just my perception or how you meant it, but I feel it's very important for us to be proud of ourselves.
Very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thanks. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I think we need to still continue with the interaction. I wanted to know if we want to use some footage of the project. Would we be allowed to?
Yes,
maybe go
you're
on
allowed
YouTube
to. Yes, certainly. You have to understand, people are always under the assumption they go to Sierra Leone and there's workshops and this and that. These boys, these 21 boys, they have all branched out now, you know, doing their own thing. And now I've started to work with, but it's just in its baby steps, with 248 orphans. They were all orphaned in a village that was worst affected by Ebola. So that is my present project. And but you're welcome to use any of the footage, you know, that you find.
And even the ones that you are currently busy with now.
Yeah, I also have some footage about that. We have just started, and